Welcome to the TikTok Boom podcast. My name is Natalie Potts and I'm invested in helping people love what they do in life and business to achieve greatness. Each week I'll bring you an inspiring personal message to help you in taking action. So thank you so much for spending time with me today. Now let's go. The lost art of having patience and being in it for the long game. Recently, I've been having lots of conversations with people around building business and getting to their goals, or they're, having great ambitions. And the idea that keeps coming up, the word, the phrase, whatever, is all centered around patience. And it just had me thinking today about what could I literally come on here and talk about with absolutely no script, and just talk about what I know and inspire people, hopefully. So the reality is that patience is defined about accepting and tolerating delays, problems, or suffering without becoming anxious or annoyed. And again, if we were to really challenge ourselves and look about people we know in our worlds or in ourselves, who out of those just really struggle to be patient all the time? There's a society out there now that just wants instant gratification. I'll use an example that they might suddenly get on TikTok, they do 5 posts and, oh my God, we've not gone viral, end of the world, no patience. I used to mentor a lot of people in the corporate space, and I'd be like, you're not there yet. And I mentor coaches now on this, and I say this phrase all the time as well, that you're not there. You haven't invested time, you haven't invested commitment, you haven't invested money, energy in yourself and in your business or in your career. So why do you suddenly think that you should show up and just be where people are who have invested years and years? It's not right. So going back to this idea about the art of patience and it's lost, we need to be in things for the long game. You need to position yourself with the vision that you will go out and win. You have to outwork others. And when people say, work smarter, not harder, yeah, there's an element to that. But there's an element to that let's not take it as gospel in, you should work less hours and just be smart about how you work. It's a whole piece around looking at the foundations, what you've established, what that looks like in terms of how you show up, how you conduct yourself, what you do, how you do things. It isn't as just simple as, I think, again, like some of the quotes we see are that let's just take it at face value. Unpack and explore what's under the surface to what it really actually means around that. And I think that this isn't just COVID, right? This isn't just COVID that has got an society of completely unhappy people. And that's not a blanket. It's not that everybody is, but lots of people are unhappier than they used to be. Mental health is not in a great place in the UK or around the world. But I think all that's done is just brought up things to the surface. And that's what COVID has brought to light. So some of it absolutely is, but not all of it is. And I'll give you an example. I'm currently going through a grief recovery program. So I've had therapy on and off for years now, I'd say 6 years, because I find it really powerful. And I've had lots of different styles, practices, whatever you want to call it, of therapy. I've had RTT, which is rapid transformational therapy by Marissa Peer. I've had, CBT. I've done EFT. I've looked at EMDR. There's so many. And what I noticed was that I wanted to go back into a bit of therapy about probably, 6 months ago. I went into private therapy, which was like a psychological program. And I realised that it was great, but it was very broad and it wasn't specific. And I was being able, through that therapy though, I needed to go through that to draw out some key areas that I really needed to get further focus on and look at. So I then looked at EMDR for a friend, and I was like, it kind of deals with trauma. I'm not quite sure what I feel about my, attachment, association with the word trauma. It just didn't fit for me. So I always sometimes know that when I'm in this state, I need to just pay attention to what's happening in the world and what happens around me. And then I trust my intuition that when the right thing comes up, I will know to go, snap my fingers and go, that's for me, and invest. And this happened with grief recovery recently. I was actually going to ask somebody who I'm doing the process with to come on my podcast and share about the amazing work they do, because it really interested me and I wanted to hear more about it. And the kind of chat we had just before around looking at what that podcast looked like, I sat there and I was like, I need this. I don't need the podcast at the moment. I need this recovery process myself. And it's been really tough. It's been amazing. I'm so glad I started it, but it's been really, really tough. And I was thinking today about what's one reflection, in the last 2 weeks that I've noticed. And it would be that I cry more. And that's not for people to feel upset or for me to feel upset. But what it shows me is that what I was doing a lot beforehand really well was taking everything and pushing that emotion down and not tapping into what was underneath that emotion. And then this is where, if I go back to a few scenarios, let's use example then. So one of the reasons is that there's probably past relationships I haven't moved on from, but grief actually is over like 40 areas of our life. It's not just losing a person. So the part I'm really looking at is where I've left a career of 19 years and what is familiar to us is suddenly gone, and behaviors have to change and everything does. And it's a loss. I lost a lot of self-identity at the time. And I'm having to establish that again and almost find another Natalie. What I didn't like about some of the therapy I've had previously is they say that word like little Natalie, let her go. And I was like, but for me, and it's just about we all go on our own journey. For me, it didn't sit well that I had to let an idea go, but that's me still. That was very conflicting for me internally. So I believe you have to find what works for you, but it was definitely a lot of self-identity that was lost. Now, going back to the art of patience here, it's not overnight. It wasn't overnight that suddenly got me to a trigger where I left that career. It was an amalgamation of so many events, situations, feelings, emotions that created that trigger moment where it was like, boom, enough. And this is exactly the same. You have to invest time, energy, commitment, and know that it's going to take time and be really patient with it. And I'm learning to enjoy that process so much more because I'm mindful of it. So it's the same with like our beliefs. Our beliefs are formed by about the age of 17. And Simon Sinek shared this on a recent podcast. I'm not going to steal what he says because that'd be wrong to do so. But it obviously, it kind of resonated with me and it stayed with me to be able to share this, off the top of my head as an example now with you. But could you imagine how powerful life could be if we were able to understand our emotions and be able to form empowering beliefs, not limiting beliefs? I just think it would be really interesting to do a study and look at that as younger generations through to older, and the impact that had at their later ages in life, and what it meant for them around achieving their aspirations, living a life that's happy, where they're happy and content, living a life where they're managing their mental well-being and mental health. I just think it'd be really intriguing, and I'm so curious about this. But you've got to learn to stick at things, even if you just invest and do little, like 1% every day. So patience, I'm finding, is a lot around this idea of, again, being in the long game. Look around, failing fast, understanding what works and doesn't work for you. And what I've realised is, a bit like I'm trying to get better at with my love of fitness, is to understand and love the process more. When I did fitness in previous years, I was so invested in the vision all the time. And that's great to have there. I think it's really important. But science proves that people are pushed, driven out of a pain point more. So I'm having to learn to love the process in things. And this is exactly the same with the process in building a business. You've got to be in it for the long game. Meditation is another example. It's something I've been exploring and doing more of in the mornings. I don't do it every morning because I don't want it to become a chore. I want it to feel natural, and I want it to be that the moment I do meditation, it puts me into a state that's calm, that's collective, that allows me to switch off, and that has a power to make me feel better. And I don't think that that's suddenly going to be an overnight process either. And, people do think things are overnight. Like I shared about that TikTok idea, and people will say to me sometimes, "You're lucky." And I'm like, I'm not lucky. I'm bloody credible to be where I am. I've invested a lot of time, energy, effort, money. I've sacrificed a lot to be where I am. And no way am I sitting here saying I'm the most successful person. That's not what I'm saying. But I do look around my life and think there's people that have got kids, they've got families, that they don't live on their own, they're with a partner, and they're set up. And it's like I don't necessarily feel lucky. But I am grateful, absolutely grateful for what I have. But I worked solid for that. When I was 18, I absolutely loved going and earning money. I enjoyed it. I'm not going to lie about that. I loved the fact that I had the responsibility of working and then leading people at a very young age. It felt good, and I thrived off of that energy. And, I would have one holiday a year, and it'd be a nice holiday. And my bonuses are probably what annual salaries are. But I worked and committed. I gave in my head as a mindset piece, my attitude to my career is that I was on 24/7, apart from holiday. And even then, sometimes I'd be on it. But I would literally feel that if you needed me 24 hours a day, I'd be there. And it caused so many rifts in relationships. I remember having an argument once with an ex about 10 p.m. at night because work needed me. And he didn't get it. And I said, I'm not explaining it to you. I said, if you don't understand how important this is to me, then this isn't going to be anything. It's not going anywhere because with all respect to you, and I don't like saying that phrase with all respect, but I needed him to be more respectful of my situation. I needed to be of his, but that wasn't going to work for me. I wanted, if I was going to have to give up work for that relationship, I would have been really unhappy. And I knew that. So I did give 24 hours and everything, but there's certain, ways that I look and think, well, I'm not necessarily lucky. And this is the same in business. When you invest in your growing things, you've got to start and do the foundations. So many people are like, oh, I'm going to get a Facebook ads and do this. And I'm like, why? It's like, you don't even talk to people in your world that you know about what you do. So go and look at becoming a master. Be and hang around with people that are where you want to be, that will raise your game and push your boundaries and your standards. And this idea of boundaries has been really poignant with me recently. And, my coach is really challenging with me, which I love. And I value the professional relationship that we're building, because every week we seem to build more rapport as well. And the other day I thought, I'll message him a little bit of a note to accompany my weekly report back to him, just to give a bit further context. 20 minutes I was soundboarding, because I don't have people around me the same way I used to share what I'm feeling and to get those emotions out and to feel those emotions come through. And I needed to bounce them off. And kindly he listened, and he came back with another 20 minutes about, one, thank you for sharing everything and how powerful it was. And, just sharing that he loved the fact that I hated doing a weekly report because it was challenging. And things are, again, like, you've got to fail at it. And I looked at a report and was like, it looks like I haven't done enough. And that doesn't feel good. But doing that week in, week out will either push me two ways. It'll push me away where I don't do any of it, which is not going to happen, or it'll push me in a way of, how do I get better at it? What do I need to improve on? What do I need to learn? Who do I need to ask for help from? And that's the part of this process that I love. And he sent me kindly, I love this with people around you that are amazing and believe in you. He sent me an amazing book I'm going to start reading around setting boundaries and finding peace, because I'm really struggling there at the moment. And this is why I think it's so powerful that people remind themselves again about it's not overnight, and to just be grateful for what you have, but invest in yourself, invest time, energy, and I say all the time, money, all these things. These are what you need to do. You need to create the foundations and stability. Ambition is so sometimes awfully hard, because you have to be patient. And it's to have those two is a real challenge. But you have to understand that some things are going to fail, and that's okay. As long as you're pursuing your dreams in the right way, you will stay on track. And patience is hard because it is so important. It's a core ingredient to success. And Gary Vee talks about patience a lot, but with patience, he talks a lot about empathy. And I was on a personal development day this week with a business mastermind I'm on, and he said this amazing point about presence is more important than positivity. And I said, can I build on that, please, and ask you what your thoughts are around empathy? I said, because sometimes I don't think we live in an empathetic world. And again, Gary Vee talks a lot about this. So, again, I'm not stealing anyone's ideas, but it resonates with me. I truly believe this, that we don't have empathy for others enough. And he came back and shared with me, but you have to have empathy for yourself. And it was again linked to this idea of boundaries. And he said, if you don't have empathy for yourself and look after yourself, then you can't be empathetic to others. And again, when I say this idea of paying attention, notice what you notice, it was so interesting because I thought, right, well, that really resonates with me around the idea of boundaries. And it really it really links between this idea of the giving side, being grateful and giving to others and serving others. Because if you don't give and allow others to give back to you and accept that they can give back to you. So let's take an example of a compliment. If you're not great at, receiving compliments from people, you stop them giving. Therefore, you stop the cycle, right? You stop the flow. And I learned this was a poignant moment in Bob Berg's book, The Go-Giver. It's a brilliant book if you haven't read it. But it's exactly the same thing with empathy. If you have to be empathetic with yourself too, and allow other people to be empathetic. It's a similar idea of this flow for me. And then it doesn't have to stick for you. It's just what was coming to my mind in the reflections. And then I was just thinking how powerful that was around the idea of just looking at where I'm going with some of the therapy and everything, and previously, and then the grief recovery. And the person who was doing grief recovery said to me, Natalie, I need you to put your own oxygen mask on this week, where I had a really tough week a few weeks back. And I was like, wow. So all of this stuff is just drawing together, but I'm allowing that to come through, and I'm giving it space, and I'm giving it time. I'm not saying, good, right, I've got that. I need patience. I need to go in this. Right, I need to be more empathetic. I'm going to do that this week. I'm giving it time, and I'm drawing all of the reflections on the journey that I'm going on and thinking about, what does that mean to me? How can I use that to become a better person? How can I use that to serve and be better for others? And I think this is really important when you're in something for the long game. So use these ideas and look in your life at what it means to you, what's going well out of these ideas, and what you need to focus on and do more of. So, like I shared earlier, work with people who are already there or doing what you want to do. Learn from them, model what they do. Don't copy them, but model what they do. Be around others who are driven, focused, and leaders and experts in their craft. Because if you're going to run a business, you have to remind yourself that you are a leader too. And leaders have to have compassion and empathy. So finally, I just want to bring all of that together and give you a moment to just think about what will be maybe 3 actions you're going to take from listening to this today. And I want to draw that because so often we're just next. Let's listen to the next podcast. Let's read the next book. Let's do the next course. Let's learn. But you've got to know that within the patient side and long-term game, you've got to implement. You've got to do. You've got to be a part of knowing that that's a form of procrastination. And there's something in that, if that's what you just want to do is learn, and the next thing of, all that I just shared there. So take time out to think about the actions, because the actions will make you look at what you need to do and implement. And that is what is going to be the key part to move you forward in a long game. So take that time for you. Be patient with this. Be kind to yourselves. Be compassionate. Be in it for the long-term gain. Even if you don't know what that looks like, be invested into it. Have your vision and be invested into it, but be in the moment too. Thank you so much for listening on that. I really hope, as I shared, you've really taken some learnings and that's inspired you on your journey. Make sure if there's something that stood out, you share this with somebody that could take value. Maybe there's someone around you to think they are not patient at all and they really need to hear some of the points in this. And I love hearing your feedback, so please leave me a review and let me know if this episode resonated with you. But for now, go and take action, make a difference, and of course, have a great day.